And this time it's Friday. Kind of an easy call, being that yesterday was Thursday. And yes, things have gotten to be a lot worse. We have a tremendous amount of information to cover tonight. Program and behavior of the Trump administration vis-a-vis the ever-expanding coronavirus epidemic in this country. And it is an epidemic, and it probably will be a worldwide pandemic by official declaration, finally. What they're waiting for is, we've talked about that before. There is a lot going on in the Trump administration. In addition to his incompetence in terms of putting out a policy, he has now fired his chief of staff and replaced him with a congressman. So, big surprise, eh? There we go. It's not unusual to see changes, wholesale changes, big changes in the Trump administration. He is, by the way, continuing to speak. If you ever watch a direct verbatim printout, a transcript of one of his news conferences or whatever he's doing, you'll notice that he doesn't use full sentences quite often. They're fragments. They're just pieces of sentences. 3 words, 5 words, 7 words. It's a very strange indication that his mind doesn't think like most people's. I think we already know that. Here's a transcript from a Q&A in Pennsylvania the other day. Trump. He's trying to blame Obama now over the disaster of his coronavirus policy. And he said, this is a quote, "Well, the testing. We did it. As soon as we found out that it was a problem, we did it. It's not the kind of thing you say, gee, I just got elected, let's do something on this." They had some bad decisions. Some bad decisions were made. We corrected those decisions. He just doesn't speak in full sentences. Even with a teleprompter, he gets off the prompter, and as soon as he gets off the prompter, he's gone. All right, enough. We have a whole lot of news going up shortly, the day's news for you. We're going to try and separate most of the coronavirus stories into a section. Now, we can't do all of them, but we'll put a big block in there so you can know what you're looking at. Up to this point, it has been an issue of too many stories consumed, whether they're political stories or whatever stories, consumed with the virus. So it's spilled over everywhere. I'm going to try and rein that in a little bit so it'll be easier for you to read them. All right. Let's go down to Florida or somewhere in the east, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas. He's in the deep south. That man of the south himself, Yoichi Shimatsu. Welcome back, friend. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm in the southern part of the south. I like to say I'm below the rest of the United States, somewhere in the Caribbean. There's so many.
They don't have fleas down there. They have crawdads. That's what.
Oh yeah, they have. Well, not so many crawdads. They got alligators here and, huge pythons imported. It's a dangerous place. So coronavirus fits right in. Actually, not too many cases here yet because, the East Coast is fairly sheltered still, pretty far from the storm. So a couple cases I heard in Miami, could be some in Tampa. But, a lot of these cases are sort of hushed up. No one really knows how many people are self-contained. Is that the new word we have?
Oh, self-quarantined. Here's the deal. Honestly, most people, if they feel reasonably good, they're not going to stay home. They're going to go to the store. They'll just say, well, I'll stay away from most people or I'll be careful. Most people, if they're put on the honor system, they're not honorable people. They're not going to do it. They're going to go out and live life like they usually do. I've seen it too many times before with other issues.
Yes. Well, I think in Puget Sound area, however, and up in Seattle,
Ground Zero.
Yeah, that's a different story. That's Bill Gates' country up there. It's amazing how ironic this is. All the bad guys seem to be hammered. I don't know if the culprits went back there and spread it, or if some of their prime targets happen to live nearby. Puget's a huge naval army area, especially naval area. I've tried to emphasize how those military games were the likely target, and special forces and military intelligence officers of about 60 countries were hammered with this thing, which is why we're seeing it all over the place. Like it's breaking out in all these countries of Europe, which were heavily involved in the games. Places like in Scandinavia have got it, which don't have really a large Chinese population or too many visitors in China. So where it's breaking out is very, very indicative of what I've been, pointing out all along, that in late October, these World Military Games held by, it's a French-based organization, but it was started during the Cold War. And then after the fall of the Soviet Union, expanded to sort of like a back-channel friendly club among the world's militaries in case the politicians go a bit crazy. The militaries have a way of communicating with each other and resolving issues. And we've seen the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Center, that's Qom, Iran is southwest of Tehran. That's been massively hit. That is the holiest shrine for the Revolutionary Guards, their home base.
Right.
And their politicians are being whacked in the parliament. So they must have done very well. The results of the games are not known very well. All we know is that the Army triathlon was won by a woman, American soldier, which was one of the rare victories. Because, U.S. sends their Team B. They don't want to send their best guys there because it's more of a, get to know you with the other military, special forces and military intelligence officers. So, if something happens in the Persian Gulf.
And what was the location
hey, Omar,
of this again?
This is Jack over here, How you doing
What was the location of the games?
Wuhan. The games are held in about 20 different places.
I just want people to know this was before the breakout. All right, just before the breakout.
Yeah, it happened in late October, and these were really healthy young guys. In fact, all the officers in military intelligence, they're all in good shape, And so it was the early version of the virus. So by the time they started falling sick, about 3 weeks ago in serious, dropping in places like Kent, Washington, these guys had the first infection, maybe thought it was nothing, common cold, took a few pills. By the time the fourth one's coming around, it's multiplying now. There's billions of them in their organs, destroying their destroying their heart tissue, destroying their nervous system.
Another quickie. There is another article out, a good article on neurological damage that this virus does. Just like SARS, remember? There was neurological damage done to people, and the same thing's going on with this one.
Yeah. Well, this one's abetted by tuberculosis because it affects the brain, the nervous system. Macrobacteria tuberculosis was cloned in there. It was taken from bison in Alberta. It's infected heads of buffalo, and it's very insidious because you cannot see it on the surface of the brain. It's inside the wrinkles of the brain. So that is really, when it's that deep down and in control of your system, the shutdown is this is why, guys on the street in Wuhan just fall down, And so less and less people were reported falling down in Wuhan, but there's no news from all the other cities.
Well, you just said the key word, though. Fewer and fewer are reported to be falling down.
Yeah.
We know the lid has come down on those people. They've been threatened. Do not do any digital video with your cams and try to sneak it out. We'll find you, and you're going to be toast. There's a lot of lying going on there, 26 hours a day. It
well, the residents of Wuhan are calling out, so some vice minister came down, and women from the upper floors are shouting, fake, 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 it's all fake, right? Jia, jia, jia. Saying all the news is fake. The situation is really still bad. There's a back-to-work order, but people are really scared to go back. A lot of them are incapacitated from going back. And the other latest thing is the black rain falling down over Saitama. That's where I used to, it's north of Tokyo. I used to live up there, And it's sort of on the edge of the Pacific, like over the mountains. the Central Alps. It's on the other side of that. So, these particles are coming. It's springtime, so particles come all the way from the Yangtze River. The wind blows up north and comes across the Japan Sea.
Oh, this
and then
is
comes
Chinese air pollution coming down in the raindrops on Japan.
Yeah, except there's no industry right now. The air is clear over China.
So
everyone in Japan's freaked out.
Except for the bodies being burned in the crematories.
Exactly. What's happening is the ash from the bodies is coming down in sort of an oily black rain, over a very nice part of Japan. It's got some really nice rapids, agricultural country, beautiful limestone mountains. But luckily, it's going over the mountains, but down to the farmland toward the Pacific coast. And, what's really weird is the coast there in Ibaraki, it's right the next province, is where all the Fukushima radioactivity comes in. So this is really a terrible place. It's very demoralizing for the people there because they've been hammered by Fukushima for 9 years, and now this black rain out of Wuhan. We're not even sure it's Wuhan. I've heard recently that there's black rain being seen in Chongqing and Heilongjiang, which is on the Russian border way north, in Beijing. So,
but a lot of
this is a lot of cases.
This is body burning. This is body burning, and so the heat rises. You could say it's raining people on Japan.
That's what's depressing the people in my province. There is that. Oh my gosh. What other bad stuff can hit us, right? It's, they were not the worst hit after Fukushima, but as I reported, if you recall, I was very depressed a year later when I said, oh no, where I live in Japan is now massive the heat from the Pacific has lifted these clouds up higher than the mountains. That never happened before, these pink clouds coming over, and it became very radioactive. So this was a fairly untouched area. And now we got the black rain there, so it's kind of ironic, but it's kind of frightening, if this was happening, let's say on your car or in your garden, if you were growing.
A lot of it is organic.
It's
organic sludge coming down, is what it is. It's raining people. Think about it.
Yeah, it's raining people. A lot of sulfur probably mixed in there.
Yes. Sulfur dioxide, isn't that what they were getting from the satellites, showing that big red cloud over Wuhan?
That's what I mean.
Enormous red cloud.
Sulfur is not so bad for your garden, actually. But who wants to eat cabbages growing in your backyard? After Fukushima, now this, it's like how many nightmares do these people have to endure? So it's a horrible situation in Japan. All the chickens are coming home to roost on Shinzo Abe, who has something to do with all of these things, from Fukushima to what happened in Wuhan.
He's got dirty hands, that guy.
I think he's sort of a pariah by now. I think he's suspected by all the countries of the world where the military games. But Japan was not there. But obviously, I've traced very clearly the origins of this chimera, this hybrid coronavirus with HIV and tuberculosis. I mean, this is really a crazy Frankenstein, our bit of RNA in it that traces back to Kawaoka's lab in Wisconsin, in Tokyo University, and financed by the Japan Ministry of Education, Sports, and Science. Kind of ironic, because this is the Olympic year, right? This nefarious education ministry.
Olympics.
Yeah. It is a shocker, huh? That they're still talking about the Olympics are going on. They're weighing whether to just have it with athletes, no spectators.
Oh, please.
That they are just quaking in their boots. This thing is anyway. And we had that Tokyo Love Boat issue too. That's where all the games are held, inside Tokyo Bay, where that thing was sailing around. So not only do we have radioactivity, as I've shown there, in the water, that's crystal clear because all the life forms are dead inside of it, except for E. coli. I don't know why the E. coli comes down from the sewage, so it comes in. I guess it gets killed off but it's totally toxic.
Well, it's like what happened on the West Coast, especially along the British Columbia coast. The tide pools, it's just plain water now, basically.
Yeah.
Very few species of life left. Used to be 6,500, around that. Now we got 10 or 12. That's it. So there's nothing left.
But I suppose there's lots of coronavirus in the air, because that Love Boat, had how many? 3,000 people aboard, and probably, their cooling system, their air venting system all was released on Tokyo Bay. So you've got this really horrible stew, happening here where the Olympics are supposed to happen. And no one's got the guts to say no, guys. And, this is what's really worrisome. You talk about Donald Trump's indecisive. It's kind of an indecisiveness now. He doesn't know how to play this thing. He doesn't have the scientific background. This isn't an apprentice. You can't just tell the coronavirus, you're fired. You can't do that, right? So he doesn't know. He just got
rid of his chief of staff. You're fired.
Yeah,
Mark Mulvaney, or Mick.
Yeah,
you know what he did with Mick Mulvaney?
Mick,
He made him he exiled him to Northern Ireland and made him a special envoy. From chief of staff.
Oh, boy.
You're out of here.
Yeah. That's a nice place to be, Belfast. Right, with all its troubles. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And right now, CDC, and I've talked with people there. It's, I think we should be a little bit careful because they are overwhelmed. I give them credit. I really give them credit for sending a special team to the University of Wisconsin and basically detaining 7 people for checks on whether they have this coronavirus, and one person did. So, they're very worried. They see where this problem is coming from. And just as your team of remote viewers saw University of Wisconsin, right? They saw it right there. So we're all on the same page on this thing. That was one of the origin centers. But I think the other problem is CDC doesn't really have authority over the Pentagon, so Mark Esper, the defense secretary, he's playing his cards very close to his chest as to what's happening in Puget, Lackland. We heard some news and then it just disappears, right? Because the Defense Department basically is in control. They have their own hospital, system and all that, their own biowarfare system. Defense biowarfare system. Mm-hmm. So, there's different authorities handling different groups. So it's very, very confusing, I think, for the public. Knowing that, a lot of people are just being released because there's no one, Health and Human Services can't handle all of those people. It's not a really strong department. So here we are in the thick. It's really comedic. It's the chaos.
You gotta laugh. It's black humor. Yeah. If you don't chuckle a little bit, it just gets to be really stressful.
It's kind of a sad laugh, an ironic laugh, laughing at ourselves for being so unprepared after. Remember the 9/11 anthrax case, and then the guy was never really caught. Someone killed himself, but we don't know the full story. And I think this is part of bad news. When we have lots of news censorship, the public doesn't get clear answers, and then it begins to live in this fog. Oh, let the government handle it, or let this agency, or this corporation, or this state, or this city handle it.
Wait a minute.
No one
talk about living in a fog. I mean, think Trump, this guy. First, he goes on national television at one of his rallies and pronounces the coronavirus a hoax. It's a Democrat hoax. Yeah. He completely chopped the legs out from under the seriousness of it because he had at that time 6 weeks where he had done nothing. Now it's 8 weeks. He's done essentially nothing. He had to backtrack on that bit of idiocy the next day and try to make it sound like he was doing something. Then he put up he backed $2.5 billion, which is far less than any other flu virus program we've ever put out. Now it's up to $8 billion. He's trying to put together a policy and procedures handbook as he goes along in the dark. Utah task force accuses Trump today of spreading coronavirus misinformation by saying people can go to work if they're infected. No problem. Go to work. If you feel good enough, you can go to work. That's what the President of the United States is saying. But Yoichi, what we're facing now in the very near future, in all likelihood, is a at least temporary cessation of all air, train, and bus travel in the U.S. They'll make an effort to try to slow it down, although it's way too late. The horses have run, the barn is empty. But watch and see. They've had their second passenger screener at LAX now come down with the virus. That means these people were sick, and they were giving the virus potentially to thousands of passengers who they checked every damn day. So it's a tragic miscarriage of intelligence and logic, what we're seeing here as an alleged presidential coronavirus policy. It's a joke. It's just a complete insulting joke.
Well, I would just say this is not, he's not in, this is not what he does. He's basically a corporate executive.
No, you might say that.
He's not operating as the chief of, hail to the chief. He's not acting like the chief right now.
He didn't even know that.
Not great advisor,
No, he doesn't know. His knowledge is minimal, and they're trying to bring him up to speed.
That's another thing. Yeah, his team is not so great.
He keeps changing players. He just threw out his chief of staff, and now he's got to train another one. He doesn't know what he's going to do. As far as I'm calling for no Democrat or Republican conventions in the traditional sense because of the virus. They will not put 10,000 people in an arena when many of them are obviously going to be sick. So it's going to be potentially a telecast conference in each case. They'll have somebody at each state capital, and they'll just switch from state capital to state capital, and then the Democrat Party chairman or chairwoman will stand up and award the delegates to this candidate and that candidate. They can't put, if this virus is still around at all, in another 8 weeks, they can't do that. So they cannot have a traditional convention. Hold on just a minute. We got to pause. Sure. We'll be right back. That public health policy and medical wizard Donald Trump is now disputing the World Health Organization's coronavirus fatality rate. They're predicting and projecting 3.4%, which is a pretty big number. Trump said, I believe you had one in New York, talking about coronavirus deaths. New York has had no confirmed deaths. Not yet. He's saying 3.4% is really a false number. Now, this is just my hunch, he added as a qualifier. But he just keeps rambling on and showing how little he knows about anything. He just can't stop talking. His ego. And let's add on top of that, a CNBC commentator, Rick Santelli, is suggesting, this is how smart these people are, right? Giving everybody coronavirus in the U.S. to spare the economy. What Rick Santelli doesn't mention is that if everybody got the coronavirus, there would be maybe 11 million killed. He doesn't even say anything.
These
people are weird.
To a total halt. Everybody would be hacking and coughing in bed. So there would be no economy. Sorry, Amazon's not coming to your door.
They're just crazy.
Right.
Crazy talk. Crazy.
Here,
look. If the case fatality rate is going to end up in double digits. It's going to be 10, 11, 12, somewhere up in there. 10% of 335 million people is 33 million dead, right? So Mr. Santelli is a jerk.
Well, he's a fool. I mean, he exaggerates a lot. He's been around for way too long, reporting from Wall Street and all that. And he's a spokesman for Wall Street. They want him to keep making money till the end. And then, these millionaires live somewhat in some private island somewhere and have the money come in. But, I'm afraid other people, people got to be aware, they're still having Amazon bring them stuff and all. how many homes does an Amazon driver go to? How many people handle a package there? Stop that. Stop delivery. You guys learn how to cook at home. This is a real reality here. Now, the problem we have in the state, what the problem is, I think the core problem is, Mike Pence is, he is who he is. This is not his game, Alex Azar, the Health and Human Services chief, he's from Eli Lilly. He's trying to help the pharma industry come up with a cure. That's, just like SARS. It's 15 years ago. We still don't have a vaccine
17.
ready,
Correct.
17 years ago. We still don't. I was there, but we still don't have a vaccine, And when Margaret Chan was giving all the money to University of Hong Kong to welcome the big British pharma company to develop a vaccine, we don't have it. It'll be too late. A third of America will be dead by then. Not just from the virus, but from the collapse of the infrastructure. And we've seen right now the neighborhood in, I think it's Kent or Everett, or Kent, Washington State. The neighbors are outraged that this Econo Hotel will be turned into a coronavirus village. Now, this is so parochial. It's so small. We really do need a coronavirus COV czar right now, who, has nearly dictatorial powers.
Well, it's not Pence, is it?
No, we shut down that Tesla plant in Nevada and turn that into an emergency home. Or we can take Tonopah, the firing range there.
Tonopah.
Tonopah, that's a proper Nevada way, the Indian word. Turn the barracks there, into a...
there are all kinds of options, Yoshi. You're correct.
Put them in the desert. We got to put everyone in isolation.
Where it's hot and dry, where the virus doesn't allegedly like to be, in the heat, in the dryness.
And then we gotta just gotta tell, Army nurses, wherever, private sector nurses and staff, orderlies, you're going to get a big bonus for this. Volunteers only. If you're afraid to come, don't come here. We want only volunteers. Maybe some of the older people will volunteer who will say, I've done this all my life. I've taken risks. I know how to handle it. I will do it. We got to be on sort of like a military program to get this damn thing done. Otherwise, millions will die. We can stop that if we take action now, and it's got to be decided. But nobody in the United States of America, is willing to step forward and take any leadership. This is, I don't know how to compare.
Trump should have been on this January 1st, announcing that there's an issue.
He's out of his league on this one. This is not his thing.
Totally. He should have said, we're going to start planning now, just in case. I'm ordering the manufacture of a billion masks, blah, blah, blah. I've upgraded the testing kits. They're going to be made by the hundreds and then the thousands. We're going to be ready just in case. But nothing did the guy do.
This has to be a war production, system.
That's right.
Just like we're at war, because we are at war. This is what I've been suggesting. This was a military-style biological warfare attack on 60 countries by non-members of the CISN games who want to reorganize how world power is organized. They want the great powers to come to some sort of settlement, no more little wars, everyone controls a piece of turf, and it's going to be like 1890 among the imperial powers, running the world. That's what these guys want, They know what they want. They're ruthless. They're going with it. Gates, Bloomberg are with them, with the British. The Japanese have got a whole huge lineup there. And the Israelis obviously have their team on the ground, which was why you don't hear a single Jewish voice speaking out against COV, They're all on the same page. It's their attack on how the world is run today on the four Security Council powers, and they're going to change this world no matter how many people they have to kill. They've done it before. The histories of Britain, what happened in 1812 over here, American Revolution, right? What the Brits did in Africa and, India and all that, what the Japanese did in China,
South Africa.
Burma.
Oh, yeah.
Or Pearl Harbor. These guys don't fool around, okay? They're always on the military footing. Americans are, eating lollipops and looking at Netflix. What can I say?
Right.
This is like
What's going to happen here?
Pearl Harbor was hit. Was America ready?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In December 41, was America ready a year later when most of his navy was sunk, and it looked like Japan and Germany were going to win the war and occupy the United States? It took a monumental effort, but there's not that time now. You don't have a year and a half to organize yourself. Well, Germans, Japanese.
We don't have the quality of people either. Not now. It would take so long to train them, to give them the ethic, to instill and inculcate patriotism in them. They don't have it anymore.
Well,
and now
this is what happens. This is what I've been saying. This is what happens when you make immigration and being nice to foreign people your main agenda, rather than protecting your own national interest. You got that, folks? Because the national interest is going to sink like the battleship Arizona. That's what's happening right now. And if Americans don't shape up, boy, there's nowhere to ship out to. You're going to go up in smoke. It's going to be black rain all over North America. This is just the reality we're facing now.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I hope people wake up in Washington. I mean, that's why I don't blame the CDC.
Wake up.
They're
not going to wake up.
But this is way beyond.
2 years ago,
way
Trump,
beyond the power of the CDC.
You know what he did?
Their power.
I'm sorry. Do you know what he did 2 years ago? Trump. He cut the budget, and one of the things he cut was the entire CDC Emergency Response Department. They had a whole division. They put it together for Ebola. He cut it. It was never replaced.
I heard from some of their staff it's a micro unit now, running around. They just don't have manpower. Yeah, micro units, very small unit.
The man is so over his head in this. It's really an obscenity, and a lot of people are going to get sick and suffer.
You do need some science education in this technological world.
At least you need to have a czar with a strong, solid science background, able to pull on the resources of hundreds of top scientists. Where do we have that? What do we got? Mike Pence?
Yeah. Well, that's why we have a joint chiefs of staff. I hate to put it this way, but the military is the only organization that can save the United States at this point. Right? I mean, this is reality. This is just reality. After Pearl Harbor, it wasn't FDR or his vice president did anything. It was U.S. military. The military was under attack in Wuhan. The people who were sick in Washington and Texas and so on and Oregon are all military personnel or their relatives. This is war. When we say biological warfare, let's understand, put the emphasis on warfare. This is an undeclared war directed against 60 countries out of the 100 that are at the game. Europe has been massively hit. If you look at the map, the red dot map, it's all over Europe. This is a major attack against the dominant powers of the world. And right now, the dominant power is the United States, soon to be total loser power. This is like the day after. You've seen the movie. The day after Pearl Harbor. Americans weren't rallying to the flag. Americans thought they were beat. They thought they had no chance. It took a whole year of massive effort building crappy boats that go out there with a few Navy guys who get shot to hell and sunk, on suicide missions before finally ship production, building of ships and airplanes finally got, Americans got their act together. They just gone through depression. There wasn't any skilled labor. It took a lot of time to train hundreds of thousands of people to put war machines together.
And who were a lot of those skilled labor forces? America's women, young women, middle-aged women. Terrific. What they did, and they just
a different
get
America,
no recognition for that. Oh yeah,
a different America. Then right now it's so divided. It's people hate each other over the most minor ridiculous things. What color you're wearing today? That they have, and they're in the maws of a monster, a biological warfare out to exterminate every one of them, regardless of race, sex, preference, or whatever they have. You're a Democrat or Republican. This is a war against society. It's a war to kill everybody on the ground here. Because there's a lot of beautiful land in America that other countries would like to take. And it's not like they haven't tried before. It's not like they haven't tried before. But this time they have a real theoretical chance because of the weakness. American spirit has been replaced by this weakness. The cave in, the desire to just look after oneself. As long as I'm comfortable, as long as I'm watching TV, I'm okay. Doesn't matter what happens if someone comes through the door, with a mask on and puts me through an incinerator and I come down with black smoke. This is suicide. See, this is a situation of a suicidal society, which we've been talking about, huh, Jeff? Since Fukushima, we've been talking about.
9 years.
The society can't come to grips with stopping nuclear power. It can't deal with the fact that all the living creatures that keep the farmlands, why the farmlands collapsing in America? The reality, no insects to pollinate, right? It's not just
no insects to pollinate, too much herbicide, pesticide, GMOs in the soil now. We've ruined our soil. We've just destroyed the goodness and the richness. We used to have like 5-6 feet of deep, rich, loamy topsoil throughout much of the Midwest. There's less than a foot now, and every year they have to lace it with so many chemicals, it's toxic.
Yeah, and Indiana was 18 feet of topsoil. Now there's not a single inch. There's not 1 millimeter. There's no topsoil
18 feet? I know you grew up there.
In Indiana.
Spent a lot of time
there. Well, I was in college there, So that's when it was down to like 3 feet, and people were panicked then. It's down to nothing today. The land has been devastated. People have been sitting on their butts enjoying an easy life, I did write recently about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Here comes the pale rider. Pestilence, disease, and death is coming upon the land. So the crisis is here now. Something's got to get done. A special task force has got to be done. The military has got to lead the way. They're the only ones who can. They're under attack, but they're the only ones who can pull this off right now. It's sad to see a great democracy based on, the will of the people, the civilians, the people protected by a constitution, given their rights and powers, that this people cannot defend themselves against something so small as a virus. That is pathetic. It is really, really, and unfortunately, America is still the leader in the world. America fails, humanity is doomed. It could be a total systemic collapse, throwing us into a dark age.
Oh, hey, I believe they're going to use this to force a digital currency on people. If I'm right, and no one's saying this at all yet. I haven't heard anyone else say this.
The WHO says don't touch money. Digital currency.
Digital currency. No national political convention for the Democrats or the GOP in July and August. They're going to do it all on television. And then what? They're going to then suggest if you go to the polls, and the virus is still around then in November, and it will be, it gets cold, it'll come back. People are saying it's going to become indigenous now, this virus. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
There are ways to bust it. There are ways to bust it, but it's hard to say. No, the problem is that it's mutating in many different directions.
Correct.
And therefore, we may knock out one of the worst variants right now, but it doesn't mean other variants won't, come in to fill its space.
We got a let's call it a modestly dangerous virus, and we got a high path version, and that's 70% of the cases apparently. That's
and
bad.
Unfortunately, you say high path, it could actually get worse. It can be like total a killer, a total killer. We don't know where it's going. It's getting stronger with every generation.
That's what viruses
do. If it's allowed to keep going another 10 generations, this could be the one that ends the human race. Well, it ends like maybe mammals. Mammals will be a forgotten species soon. Yeah.
All right. Not with a bang, but a
whimper, a cough. We go out with a cough.
There you go. Not with a bang, but with a cough, and then a whimper. And that's it. Here's what else they're going to do. They're going to say, if the virus is around next November, and it will be, we can't have our voters going to polling places where there's a chance they could infect others or become infected, especially our older voters. So what are they going to do? Online voting. Watch.
Yeah.
This is what their plan is.
Totally rigged. It means whoever runs the government.
Already rigged, but
yeah. It's totally rigged. Yeah, that way. Yeah. So this is very grim. It's world governance coming in, in a way that America is seen as the main enemy of all these old empires.
And we're getting what we deserve.
Regimes. Yeah, we have failed to be a republic. We have failed to be the defender of democracy. We failed to hold up the standard, which is a bunch of lazy losers is what America has become, not a nation of champions. And this is
not innovators.
That's right. And we can't stop.
Yoichi, remember all the promises, and I know all of you, we're going over familiar ground here, but all the promises Trump made for a year and a half, how he's going to bring industry home, manufacturing home to America. He hasn't done anything. Nothing has changed.
Mask business going, it just takes cotton, and it doesn't take much to make a mask, right? Get a factory going,
He could do that, right? If the guy had half a brain, he would go to one large 500 or 1 million square foot facility and order that somehow, he's not a dictator, but he would put together industrial and corporate money, and they'd start making masks right now, and he'd have a big PR coup, but he's not. If Hillary Clinton were smart, she'd jump on this issue and make it her own. Point out how he called it a hoax.
She's not going to be seen. She's disappearing from sight. She's scared of this virus,
Oh, no. Well, yes, right now.
But don't you see the whole political class is so fearful for their own lives?
She doesn't have to be around.
Their country.
You know why?
Risk it for their country. And their policy.
You know why? Because for the next 4 weekends, the Hillary Clinton 4-part documentary is airing on Hulu Sunday nights. So she doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah, horrible. That'll be a pack of lies. Yeah, let's see the Vince, what's his name? The Vince Foster section. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah.
That'll be about 30 seconds worth, if it's even in there.
Yeah, at all. Right? Yeah, give us a break here. So, we're facing a national crisis. This is the most serious crisis since Pearl Harbor. In many ways, more serious than, if the Japanese had landed on California and all that in Washington State, that would have really been a super, luckily, they turned around and went back, and didn't come back till Midway, So had they just kept going, they probably would have won the war, And, this thing isn't making a mistake. It's not stopping in Hawaii. It's got Hawaii whipped. It's got Washington State whipped. It's moving on to L.A. It's coming into New York. So there is no relief, folks. This is worse than World War II. This is worse than 1941, December. You got to understand what's happening here. The enemy has landed, and they're on the attack, and they're not going to stop till this country is on his knees, and you're a bunch of slaves, and you've lost all your freedoms, and there will be no more republic. You'll be a colony, or maybe America will be divided between the great powers, and you will all be slaves of their respective colonies. So this is all I have to say, man. I've lived around the world. I've seen how other societies run. They have no mercy for Americans. They treat you like cattle, like draft animals, hogs. That's all. You'll see the whip. You'll see the whip, and you'll know what I mean when that happens. They have no respect for you. So you got to understand, your dignity's online, your children's future's online. The future of America is on the line right now. If this biological weapon does the damage it's going to do, there'll be no way to come back. You'll be outnumbered. I don't care how many guns you have. You'll be outnumbered by the foreign forces. That's how they're planning it. Wipe out. This is a war of annihilation. Not a war of attrition, a war of annihilation. They're going to
all they have to do is start off with a few carefully placed EMP bursts, and we're back to the horse and buggy as a population, right there.
Right.
All the smartphones are just junk, trash, all gone. So that's how easy it would be. You wouldn't really have to nuke America. You could just EMP it into complete subservience.
Well, let me
and then
tell
the
you just
virus
one
goes
thing.
through and does a lot of damage there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was at a bus stop the other day, and there was 2 black women there, okay? You know, one of them saw me, an Asian. She says, "What is this coronavirus? What is coronavirus?" I didn't say anything.
Oh, come on, Yoichi.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I was just listening to her. She wasn't hostile or anything. She was just asking me a question. And the older black woman next to her, "They made it to kill people." And I said, "You got that right." You understand?
That's funny.
I said, "Oh, man."
You turned that around. That's funny. Yeah.
Woman from a black community here. You know, it's called Paramore Street. She's saying they made it to kill people. Boy, she understood very clearly what this is about. Okay, genocidal. The genocidal weapon being directed, and it's slowly coming upon the U.S. because the U.S. had a lot of athletes there. They wiped out the Iranians. They're going to go after all kinds of people. The French are going to get clobbered. The Italians are being clobbered. So the Germans are being clobbered. They're not saying anything.
The best information we can possibly give you, you get right here. Okay. Thank you for being here this week and tonight. Have a good weekend. Talk to you soon.